the inaugural episode of the franchise. Shit.
We're doing something different
We're
now.
doing something different now. We are now
rebooting. Jane, Silent Bob.
We're better. We're stronger. We're faster.
None of those things.
Much more handsome.
That baby. Older for sure.
Older for sure. You're several years older at this point. Since
I'm quite young still. Very young.
Just barely out of his boyhood. Anyways, we are the Screen Surfers.
Yeah.
And we just decided we love watching media, consuming media of all types, whether it be the latest releases in theaters or it is, old classics that you can find on any of the streaming services. Everyone pays for, 3 or 4 of them, I assume now. It's basically just the modern cable.
8 or 10.
Whatever.
Every single month there's a new one.
If it's film or television and you can watch it on a screen, we review it.
So yesterday we went and saw a movie on the silver screen in a theater, believe it or not.
We went to a place
to see a thing.
Saw a thing.
And we saw the newest Marvel movie, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Directed by one of my top, not top, a director I admire, Sam Raimi.
Yeah, I think anybody in our generation, like an extremely influential director at the very least.
Sure.
Like with us, it's like we all saw Spider-Man. Like that's like every fucking person in their like late 20s, early 30s, we all fucking saw Spider-Man. We all loved it. It was the first
superhero movie that
it was the fucking
attention.
big one, yeah. It was like right around the same time was like X-Men, and then Blade was a couple years before that. But I think Spider-Man was like the first, like, this is dynamite fucking superhero movie.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess just diving right into it, that was probably my favorite thing about this movie, especially in the context of the other Marvel properties that we have of recent. It was so different. It was such a departure from everything else I've seen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe to date. And if I had to pick a thing that I liked the most about this movie, it's just that I've kind of been going through some of this, what they call it, superhero movie fatigue, with so much content related to superheroes and comic books coming out. And I just enjoyed the fact that it was something totally different, not separate, but just a departure from the rest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of feels like Marvel is going to need to do a lot to justify sort of their existence. It's just like because we've been doing that. Marvel's been going since 2008, and it kind of feels like I don't know what they need to do in particular to keep it fresh, but it's like this
was the right, like, I think sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I liked seeing Sam Raimi's version of a Doctor Strange movie. We can get into the specific issues, and it's definitely not a flawless film by any means, but just that it was darker, it had a different tone to it. That was the right direction. And then also Taika Waititi, hiring him to do the Thor movies, the two more recent ones.
I think that's a big, like, getting more auteur filmmakers who have a little bit more control over the property and what they're doing, I think is definitely like a right move. I mean, it's weird though, because like, it's like you need to be, I think they need to be so aware of what filmmaker they're pairing with what property in order for it to like work well. Like, I think Sam Raimi, fits the Doctor Strange brand. And he made a Doctor Strange movie that like feels authentic because like it's like that creepiness and that it's that whatever. But it's like you could easily pair not the correct filmmaker and then it's like get something weird. So it's like it's not just like hiring auteur filmmakers, but it's also like being very specific about like who you're pairing with what. It's like Taika Waititi with Thor, which is like maybe not the most obvious pairing
on
at
its
first,
face,
but it's like he was really able to take Thor and then make it his own thing and like make it into this like comedy, funny, lighthearted, and it's like that's his whole brand, is about being lighthearted and
this quirky kind of offbeat comedy.
So I guess like I don't know, like how do we want to structure these things? Do we want to give our overall opinions first and then get into the nitty gritty a little bit, or like?
I think I think the first 2 episodes is gonna be a lot of us just kind of finding that groove. I like starting on a positive note, so that's why I started with what I liked about it.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe just starting with like if there is a positive note for the given film that we're talking about, maybe starting with that and then going into the issues that we might have had with it, or and maybe kind of start there in terms of our structure, and then I assume as we do more episodes, maybe a more specific structure will kind of naturally emerge. But yeah, so I guess the tone, and I love that it was like there was a couple of, like, I wouldn't quite call them jump scares, but there was almost jump scares in that movie.
There was at least one.
Yeah.
Like straight up jump scare. That I actually like kind of... It wasn't... The thing is, like, the thing that jump scared you wasn't frightening. So it was, like, a very easy jump scare to get over. But it was like... I'm like, I didn't fucking expect that. It came from nowhere. And I kind of did a little in my seat.
Also, specifically with new... Are we doing spoilers? No spoilers?
No spoilers.
No spoilers.
Not for new stuff. I don't
Okay, 0 spoilers. Okay, just want to clarify. So yeah, I like that the tone was very much different from the other Marvel stuff. And again, like it wasn't just different. It actually, to me, it worked with the Doctor Strange property, as you were saying, with the whole multiverse thing and the wackiness and the dark tone that he brought was very like Evil Dead or Army of Darkness almost to me. Yeah. And I loved that. I think it was a really cool, especially with, again, I don't think this falls in the realm of spoilers, but just what they did with this movie, what Sam Raimi did in terms of the visuals with the magic, I thought was really cool. And bringing that the darkness versus the light kind of theme in there was a really cool visual to see.
Yeah. I think like the biggest positive I have for this movie, because like I'll say this, like I think it largely lives up to the standard of like previous Marvel movies. Like I don't think it's like it's not some outlier movie. Like it's not like it's whatever. It's like it fits in there pretty well. I think the most positive thing I took from it was like this is a movie that really rewards people who have been sticking with the MCU, and not just the MCU, but like if you're a comic book reader, I think this might be the most like this movie, like is going to give you the most satisfaction, I think, out of any of the Marvel movies I've seen so far. There's so many little things that are just like, oh my god, that's from, and it's not even just comic books. It's like there's subtle references to like cartoons from the 90s and stuff like that were just like really awesome and really exciting to see, and like great fan service. So it's like that. I think that would be my biggest
your number one positive.
Plus, it's like if you're a fan of these movies and if you're a fan of these characters and you're a fan of this stuff in general, this movie's for you. Like I think you should see it, because like it's there's so much there that's gonna like make you excited and that and stuff like that.
I guess just kind of going off of that, I'll say my other positives, I suppose. So yeah, in general, I think the visuals, the cinematography, the effects work was just lights out. It was from that perspective alone, it was a movie you want to see in theaters, because you want to see those big visuals that are in the film in like the most optimal way. And so that was a big plus. It's always nice to go to a movie in theaters and be like, I'm really glad I paid the money to see this here.
Yeah. I totally agree. I think like the choreography and just like the amount of time that was obviously put into like figuring out how the visual effects and like just the choreography of the visual effects was going to work was done really well. It's just like, it's like Sam Raimi stuff. Like it's just, usually it's like you can see what's happening, you know what's happening, the action is clear, you're not confused as to where people are in space and that kind of thing. So that was really good. I have to call out one really short thing in particular, which was kind of blew my mind. Sound design has blown my balls off in a movie theater from what I can remember one time, and it was when I saw Mission Impossible, not Rogue Nation, Mission Impossible Fallout. I saw Mission Impossible Fallout. And there's a scene in that movie where Tom Cruise is skydiving, and it's in through a lightning storm, and they do this thing where there's like a huge crack of lightning, and then the sound goes dead, and it was just like, it was one of the coolest sound design moments I'd ever experienced in a theater. But this movie didn't reach that level, but I thought, like, I was like, this was a really cool sound design part. There's this part of the movie where there's like a big magic shield, and like this magic shield is being assaulted or whatever, if that kind of episode 1 Naboo style big shield or
big
whatever.
Dome of
big
magic.
dome, yeah.
Yeah.
And anyway, so the shield, there's this camera movement where the camera goes from outside the shield to inside the shield.
Yeah.
And there was this, I don't know what it was, but there was this sound effect where in the theater you could hear it going from the one side of the theater all the way to the other side, and like this really clear transition of sound.
That
and
was
it was
so cool.
Yeah, and I was like, whoa, like it's shit like that gets me so excited, and like that's the stuff that makes me feel like it was worth coming to the theater and paying for this, because like obviously the time went into like making this a unique visual audio experience. So I just had to call out that one particular moment.
Yeah, and there's a few other similar things throughout the movie. Without giving anything away, there was a characters encircled by certain entities, and there was a cool thing that happened with as they're like whatever, and the sound going around the theater, and that really immersed you in what was happening at the time, and as well as there was the one magic battle that takes place in with the well, this isn't giving anything away. There's a magic battle that takes place that incorporates music, and how they incorporated the sound design and the music, and also this, like you said, the speakers and shifting the sound between them in that scene was really well done and really cool.
Yeah.
And the visual, and as well as paired with the visual, it was really exciting.
Yeah, I think like overall the sound design just deserves like huge props in this movie.
Big time.
Like I think I spotted that Danny Elfman did the score, which is weird because I haven't seen Danny Elfman's name on anything for a while. And I think he just did, like, his score I think was great, but I think just the sound design team in general like deserve huge props. Like they fucking obviously busted their asses to like make that movie fucking audially amazing.
I think I guess kind of transitioning into what things we thought the movie could have done better. I think we can both agree that it wasn't most of the issues that we have with the movie, or speaking for myself, most of the issues I have with it live in the writing and the plot more so than anything technically with the film itself. Specifically, the big one is there's a thing they want you to give a fuck about that you don't really. It was kind of tough getting into it.
Yeah, kind of the MacGuffin of the film, if you will. I think that was my main. Here's the thing about this movie is like it starts and it doesn't stop. Like it is a roller coaster.
Yeah.
From beginning to end with like very little breathing time, and then like there's like a moment in the movie where there's like a meeting. And I guess you could say that's kind of like a moment to breathe. But even
there's so many big reveals in that meeting.
Oh yeah,
that's
like,
what the fuck,
you're
man?
so taken aback.
Yeah.
Like the meeting also has its own shit going on.
Yeah.
But so that's the movie. A really brief summary of the movie is that it's a fucking nonstop roller coaster.
Like it just drops you in the middle of something, and from there it's like you said.
Yeah. And I think that what's good about that is it basically keeps you engaged all the way through. Like you're not bored while watching the movie, but I think if you're looking at the movie from like an analytical place, you start to notice that it's like, man, they maybe are not paying as much attention, or they're not caring so much about like whether some stuff makes sense necessarily, or if some stuff was set up properly. Yeah. And so, at least speaking for myself, I found there were moments in the movie where I was like, man, I really wish that cool thing had a little bit of setup earlier, so that it doesn't feel quite as random.
Yeah, it's not just dropped in there for the sake of being cool. It actually has motivation. Yeah. Exactly.
And then along that line of like maybe feeling like there wasn't enough setup, the main MacGuffin in the film, the thing that you're supposed to care, I guess there's two things you're kind of supposed to care about in the film, but there is the primary MacGuffin that you're supposed to care about. And I just felt sort of like they didn't do enough at the beginning of the movie to make me invested in the MacGuffin. And then by the time that the MacGuffin is in threat, or like we're like you're supposed to be scared that, oh, we're gonna lose it, like it's gonna go away. I'm like, I don't really like the stakes. Like my heart isn't racing. Like I'm not really, I don't really care about what happens.
Yeah.
It's like, obviously I want Doctor Strange to win. We all want Doctor Strange to win. That's, you're going into this movie knowing that you probably want Doctor Strange to win.
And it's not as if the antagonist was, their motivations were clear and I bought them. It wasn't like some big glaring failure. It's just I agree with you. I really wish there was just more exposition that had us set some things up better.
Yeah,
or
maybe an extra scene or two.
Yeah.
Or just yeah, but I agree. I think a lot of the I should say the sequences, specific sequences, I think could have used some exposition or a little bit of extra setup.
Hell, some of them even just like a line or two.
Yeah, like nothing big, like just something so that you could calls back to like earlier in the film that you just be like, oh, that's what they were referencing. Like now I'm getting to see the thing and like whatever.
Yeah.
And it seems like due to the roller coaster nature of the film, it was more important for them to keep things moving. And they were like, you know what? Because we have things moving at such a rapid pace, people aren't going to notice these things. And I think like maybe your general audiences maybe won't. But I do think, and it, like I said, this isn't like a make or break thing for this movie. It's more like, had they spent the time to do this setup, it would have just elevated the movie a little bit to like.
Yeah, it would have taken it from, because like for me, I guess because it's a Marvel movie, it's easy for me to kind of scale it in context to the other ones.
Yeah.
Was this as bad as Captain Marvel? Hell no.
Yeah, Captain Marvel was so boring.
To me, Captain Marvel is one of the low, like, I don't know if it's the lowest tier, but it's near the bottom of the Marvels for me.
Yeah.
And this one definitely wasn't close to that bad. But was it like Captain America Winter Soldier? Was it Endgame or
like exceptional? Yeah.
Exceptional? No, it falls somewhere in the middle, maybe upper middle of the pack for me personally of the Marvel compared to the other Marvel movies.
Yeah, I think like what's weird is like I think about this movie and I think about if I want to watch it again, and I'm like, I don't know if I really want to see it again. Like there's a scene in the film that I want to watch a million times because I think it's so cool. And it's hands down the part in the movie that I like jaw dropped and like, this is so awesome. But it's like I can't like pass, like I can't pass the whole movie for that one scene.
I have to go see it because my girlfriend is a massive Sam Raimi fan. So just based on that alone, I'm going to be seeing it in theaters again.
Yeah.
So I'll let you know how it is on a second watch.
Yeah.
And just see. But
yeah, I guess like, is there anything else we need to say about the film really?
I guess like we're both in agreement that despite the issues we have with it, you should go see it in theaters if you're a Marvel person.
Yeah, honestly, I might caveat that a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if the general... it's weird because like you said, you hadn't necessarily engaged with some of the extended universe stuff. Like there's a show that came out before this movie called Wandavision. And this movie ties into a lot of the events that happened in that show.
Yeah.
And you said you only watched episode 1, but you said you still were able to totally buy into
yeah. If you know anything about WandaVision, and like, you don't have to watch the whole series to like buy into what it references in the movie.
It was weird because watching the movie, I was like, it feels like this movie more than any of the other Marvel movies benefits from having a really good tertiary knowledge. And I don't, because I have that knowledge, it's hard for me. I don't know what it's like to see it without having that knowledge. So I would be really interested to see, I would be super interested to know like if a person went in blind, what they thought. Like they didn't know anything. Like this was their first Marvel movie. I think obviously if you're a fan of the character of Doctor Strange, you'll have to see this movie.
Yeah, this is just a great next chapter in the Doctor Strange saga.
Yeah, I think that if you are a Marvel, I would even go so far as to say you need a little bit of a Marvel nut. Like you're a fan. Like you're super into this stuff. I think absolutely this movie's for you. Like there's so much fan service and there's so much cool like Easter eggy stuff for you to go see. But I'll say, like, I think your general Marvel fan, like the ones who just see the movies,
Yeah.
and like they might skip a movie that here or there, and they might see a show. I might honestly be like, you know what, this one's more of like a Disney Plus, like wait for it to be on streaming. Like I don't.
The only reason I would disagree is just because of the sound design and the visuals, and I'd just add into the group of people who might want to see this. If you're a big Sam Raimi fan, this is like Sam Raimi all over it.
Oh
like,
yeah, that's a good point.
If you're like an Army of Darkness or whatever, like not specifically, and you like Marvel, this is like the movie you've been waiting for.
yeah, absolutely. If you're a Sam Raimi fan, obvious ticket.
Obvious,
Fucking go get a ticket. Yeah,
big time. And then in general, I think it's just a really great visual experience to see in theaters.
Yeah, it is like.
Not like Avatar level, where it's like literally every frame is an art, as a piece of art, but it's definitely getting into that realm, I would say.
Yeah, it's a weird movie, and so maybe that's worth mentioning. Like if you like weird, wacky things, like it's got a lot of weird wackiness going on. So like if you're a fan of that kind of stuff. I'm trying to think. Like, I guess like it's worth mentioning that I think all the performances were good. Like
oh, yeah.
I don't know if there's anything that was terrifically like. Actually, you know what? Elizabeth Olsen, who plays this like the Scarlet Witch, like one of the Avengers, she stand out. I think she did a really phenomenal job because she was. I don't want to give anything away, but like she just had a lot to do in that movie.
There was a lot of subtlety that she needed to bring into that performance.
Yeah,
I think if she hadn't been as good as she was, I don't know if we would feel the same. Like I think that so much hinged on her performance and her bringing subtlety to the both extremes of it. And because she was able to do that, they were able to get away with a lot of the lack of exposition and other things.
Yeah,
because she was able to portray things so subtly and well.
Yeah, so I can't really think of anything else I want to call out in general. So like. I guess, do we want to give like a final sort of rating type deal and then we'll call it good for this?
Yeah, I think especially just because it's a Marvel movie and there's so many other there's movies that we can kind of compare it to and give a final like where it falls on the spectrum.
Yeah.
I kind of already said it, but I would say it's somewhere middle of the pack for me. Like I don't know what other movies would kind of be at a similar tier. Like maybe like the first Ant-Man. Would be a good one that compares to me. Kind of like it was good, but didn't blow me away.
Yeah, I think I'd say this movie's probably in like if you split all the movies into thirds, it's probably in the bottom third for me. It's too visually interesting, and there was too. I had my jaw open too many times for me to like call it to say it's like
write it off
down. Yeah. It definitely has those flaws, which is kind of which is holding it back from being like a really great film. I'll say that like maybe the best comparison I can draw is like I think I do prefer the first Doctor Strange movie more.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
Yeah, it might be reticent to the fact that I kind of enjoy like a very I really like traditional story structures where it's like hero's journey type stuff and so like maybe it's like it's that bias that's kind of like leading me that way.
I would say that's kind of like I'm also more into like the weirder stuff, so that's probably why it's like a little bit. If this is the line, you're like maybe like just below it, and I'm like just above it, kind of thing, and it's just like personal preference that shifts it because we agree on everything else. I would say. Yeah.
So in my opinion, I think if I had to tell you what to do, I would say I think it's okay to wait until this is on Disney Plus to watch. I don't think this is a movie you have to go see in theaters. Especially
if you have a decent home setup.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be nice if you had like a 5.1 or something, definitely, just so you can appreciate that sound design. But yeah, I think that's my...
Yeah, I think we can leave it there. We're going to be hopefully doing a lot of these. So
yeah. Thank you very much for watching the inaugural episode of the Screen Surfers. We'll be back definitely to talk about the first episode of Star Trek, Strange New Worlds. And then
eventually Moon Knight.
Yeah, I think we want to talk about Moon Knight too soon. So stick around for that. Thank you very much for watching. We'll catch you later.